Hello, and welcome to the Odyssey Lesson 17, Text Structure, Book 9. In Lesson 16, you wrote an extended response exploring themes in the Odyssey and the modern poem, An Ancient Gesture. Today, we will analyze how an author's choices concerning how to structure a text create desired effects. You will need your copy of the Odyssey, the Book 9 handout, dictionary.com, mythweb.com, and pantheon.org. All of those are linked in your lesson for today in Google Classroom, and your reading response journal. In Lesson 6, we learned about how the Odyssey begins in the middle of the story. Up to this point in the story, we still have many questions about how Odysseus went from being a brave warrior to a hopeless wanderer. One of the distinct features of an epic is beginning in the middle of things, otherwise known as in medias res. What is the effect of Homer's choice concerning how to structure a text and the events within it? So we're going to go to the Book 9 handout, and we're going to read over the top part of that. So if you will, read along with me at the top of the Book 9 handout. The Book 9 handout is found in today's post in Google Classroom. The events in Books 9 through 12 are flashbacks being told to the Phaeacians by Odysseus himself. The events of these books reveal how the trials Odysseus faces develop his character from the end of the Trojan War through his time with the Phaeacians. One feature of the epic is beginning in medias res, Latin for in the middle of things. Study the graphic below so that you will understand the text structure. So we're going to look at the boxes in the graphic. The epic opens with a worn and tired Odysseus weeping from grief after many years at sea. He is Calypso's captive until Zeus orders his release, but as he ventures home, Poseidon destroys his makeshift raft. Notice this is considered in the middle of the epic as far as chronology is concerned. Also in the middle of the epic, which happens next, a king's daughter finds him washed up. The kingdom has a banquet in his honor, and the people urge him to tell his story. So when he tells his story, we go back to the very beginning. The flashback begins. Odysseus and his men leave the Trojan War, victorious and rich. Through a series of trials, Odysseus's men are all lost, and he is rescued by Calypso. And then at the very end, we have the actual chronological end, which is where Odysseus returns to Ithaca and brings revenge to his enemies, and he is reunited with Penelope. Today we will begin Book 9. The events in Book 9 fall within the third box on the graphic, but first we are going to talk about Homer's choices regarding text structure. So the question on the slide actually appears on the handout as well. So I'm going to give you some time to look over that question, and then down here where it says type your response here, you're going to highlight type your response here and type over that. So in other words, what is the effect of Homer's choice concerning how to structure a text and the events within it? So again, you would highlight not the whole box, because that's just going to erase the box, but you're going to kind of click and then drag to highlight only the text, and then you're going to type over the text. So I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes to complete this part. So right below where you typed your response, notice it goes to Activity 2. Activity 2 is a close reading of Book 9 in the One-Eyed Giant's Cave, which appears in the book on pages 211 and through 214. Read the opening passage of Book 9, which is reprinted for you below. Some lines have been removed, but the line numbers follow the original text. Follow the instructions below as you annotate. Number 1. For your first reading, define the terms that have been bolded for you. Write a synonym or definition directly above the bolded word. If you would prefer to do the insert comment to do so, you can. Now let's look at number 2. For your second reading, use mythweb.com, pantheon.org, or the glossary of terms in the back of your text to look up background information for the shaded terms. Write the explanation directly above the term. Finally, use the questions on the right side of the text to guide you as you record your insights and impressions about the text. So now let's go back to the slideshow. Read along as I read the first lines of Book 9 aloud. Then complete the guided annotation of the passage. Now listen and read along as I read the passage aloud. We begin at line 1, which appears in the box. Odysseus, the great teller of tales, launched out on his story. Alcinous, majesty, shining among your island people, what a fine thing it is to listen to such a bard as we have here. The man sings like a god. But now you're set on probing the bitter pains I've borne, so I'm to weep and grieve, it still seems more. Well then, what shall I go through first? What shall I save for last? What pains! The gods have given me my share. Now let me begin by telling you my name, so that you may know it well, and in times to come, if I can escape that fatal day, will be your host, your sworn friend, though my home is far from here. I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, known to the world for every kind of craft. My fame has reached the skies. Sunny Ithaca is my home. Mine is a rugged land, but good for raising sons, and I myself, I know no sight on earth than a man's own native country. True enough, the goddess Calypso, the lustrous goddess, tried to hold me back. Deep in her arching caverns, craving me for a husband. So did Circe, holding me just as warmly in her halls, the bewitching queen of Aea, keen to have me too. But they never won the heart inside me, never. So nothing is as sweet as a man's own country, his own parents, even though he settled down in some luxurious house, off in a foreign land and far from those who bore him. No more. Come, let me tell you about the voyage fraught with hardship Zeus inflicted on me, homeward bound from Troy. The wind drove me out of Ilium onto Ismarus, the Ciconies' stronghold. There I sacked the city, killed the men, but as for the wives and plunder, that rich haul we dragged away from the place. We shared it round so no one, not on my account, would go deprived of his fair share of spoils. Then I urged them to cut and run, set sail, but would they listen? Not those mutinous fools. There was too much wine to swill, too many sheep to slaughter down along the beach, and shambling longhorn cattle. And all the while the Ciconies sought out other Ciconies, called for help from their neighbors living inland, a larger force, and stronger soldiers too, skilled hands at fighting men from chariots, skilled, when a crisis broke, to fight on foot. Out of the morning mist they came against us, packed as the leaves and spears that flower forth in spring, and Zeus presented us with disaster, me and my comrades doomed to suffer blow on mortal blow. Lining up, both armies battled it out against our swift ships, both raked each other with hurtling bronze lances. Long as morning rose and the blessed day grew stronger, we stood and fought them off, massed as they were. But then, when the sun wheeled past the hour for unyoking oxen, the Saconis broke our lines and beat us down at last. Out of each ship, 6 men-at-arms were killed. The rest of us rowed away from certain doom. From there we sailed on, glad to escape our death, yet sick at heart for the dear companions we had lost. But I would not let our rolling ships set sail until the crews had raised a triple cry, saluting each poor comrade cut down by the fierce Saconis on that plain. Now Zeus, who masses the storm clouds, hit the fleet with the north wind, a howling demonic gale, shrouding over in thunderheads the earth and sea at once, and swept down from the sky, and the ships went plunging, our sails slashed to rags by the hurricane's blast. We struck them. Cringing at death, we rowed our ships to the nearest shoreline, pulled with all our power. There, for 2 nights, 2 days, we lay by, no let up, eating our hearts out, bent with pain, and it lets off there. Now I want you to complete step 1 of activity 2. You're going to define all of the words that are printed in bold font. You're going to write a synonym above each word. I want you to use the link in your Lesson 17 Google Classroom post for dictionary.com to complete this activity. So I'm going to show you which words I mean. If you notice in the passage, you have words such as barred and probing that just kind of leap out at you because they're in bold font. Those are the ones you're going to define using dictionary.com. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to define all of the bolded terms in the passage. And I mean the bolded terms, not the shaded terms. When you have finished defining the terms in step 1, move to step 2 on activity 1. That means you're going to define all of the words that are shaded and write a synonym above each word. In this case, you're going to use mythweb.com and pantheon.org to complete this activity. These are the shaded terms. Larities is the first one you'll see. It's shaded in tan. You will have 5 minutes to define the terms that are shaded. Now I want you to complete the third step for the annotations. That's going to be those questions that are in green on the right side of the text. You're going to use the questions to guide you as you record your insights and impressions about the text. You're probably going to want to highlight violent diction in yellow and negative diction in a bright green. As you think about this, I want you to think about what words stick out to you. What words or phrases have a lot or of strong meaning to you? What similarities do you notice about all of the words you selected? What do these words have in common? Why might the author have selected those words? What message is the author trying to send? How does the author's choice of words impact your understanding of this part? You will have about 17 minutes to complete the third step of activity 2. We will continue to explore the style of Book 9 in the next lesson. To close, I want you to answer the question on the slide on your reading response journal page. This is going to cause you to, and then I want you to add to or revise your response from Activity 1 on the Book 9 handout. Answer the following question in your reading response journal. After reading and annotating the first passage of Book 9, what effect does the text structure have on the Odyssey? You're going to have about 6 minutes to complete this. If you have not completed this plus activities 1 and 2 in their entirety by the time class ends, that is for homework. It is due by the start of the next class. I'm going to go ahead and close out this lesson though. Congratulations! You have completed Lesson 17 of the Odyssey unit. In this lesson, you learned about the consequences of Odysseus's choices. You also analyzed an author's choice in structuring a text to create desired effects.